back in 2005, I believe it was. And in my role as assistant principal, I came to the realization that I could impact more African children, their way of thinking, as well as their future, by being a school administrator far more than I ever could simply being a psychotherapist. As a full-time psychotherapist working 40 hours a week, that's 40 clinical hours, which basically means at best you reach 40 children. Whereas as a school principal, you're reaching 4,000 every day. And although you don't have direct personal contact with every single child in your school, you do have regular contact with every single child in your school. So if we're trying to prevent problems that would require psychological intervention, education would be a far better use of my time and my love for our children than psychology. Now, psychology will always be my first love. But in terms of being relevant and in terms of really laying the foundation for our children upon which they can stand and build future success, there is nothing that comes close to being as impactful and relevant in the lives of our children as being a school principal.
Are you focusing on any particular age group to start off the academy?
My strategic goal, and I just had a meeting last night in Wilmington to introduce myself and the school to the community, and it was fabulous. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't spent a lot of time in Delaware. Ironically, it's only 30 minutes out of Philadelphia. But of all the states on the East Coast, and out of most of the states in the country, I've spent the least time in Delaware. I've only been there twice. So I didn't know what to expect, but it went very well. The brothers and sisters were extremely supportive. It was definitely a victory last night. And what I shared with them, which is what I'm sharing with you now, my strategic interest is to begin with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And the reason I want to begin with those 3 levels is that's normally when the school to prison pipeline begins against our children. That's normally when the special education evaluation requests start to roll in. That's when the ADHD demands start to get made. That's when the psychiatric medication prescriptions start getting written. That's also the age in the grade level where our boys begin to psychologically disidentify from the educational process. They begin to suffer what we call psychological dropout, which precedes physical dropout. Now, many of our children will physically drop out in the 9th grade. That's the main year. And the reason so many of them drop out in the 9th grade is it's a reality check. When you get to high school, if you don't have the basic skills to be successful in any of our predominantly black comprehensive high school, then you realize that there's nobody there who really cares enough to help you either. And that's why we see so many black kids drop out of the 9th grade, because that's when the reality hits that I haven't been prepared for this level, and there's no one here who's really interested in helping me get prepared. So that's the physical dropout. But the psychological dropout begins 6 years earlier in the 3rd grade. That's when we psychologically, as black boys, start detaching from the school system. Not because we don't want to learn, but we don't like having to experience the racist and discriminatory and biased treatment that's normally handed out to us by America's predominantly middle-class white female teaching corps.
It's amazing when I run into grown men and I have to read something that they write and they're misspelling the words like this, the, what, and one. And you realize at some point in time that they have absolutely dropped out of the system. Dr. Umar, we have a call. John, if you would not mind if we went to that. And I'm going to...
Sure.
Okay. John, engineer. John, you're on the line. Okay, well, I'm not that good with the board. So, John, if you call back, myself and Dr. Umar, we are here to answer any questions you have and tell us about this wonderful new school that is now in the Delaware area. The number to call in is 410-481-1010. Dr. Umar, share with the listening audience some of the things that you would need and how people can get in touch with you and send their support or offerings to this sorely needed school for our endangered youth.
Yes, indeed. The main way that brothers and sisters can assist us at this stage is to donate, because we definitely want to have the building fully restored in 6 months on August the 1st. And we have a new address, a new P.O. box for donations, which is now based in Delaware. And so brothers and sisters can mail the check or money orders payable to the Fdmg Academy to 9634. I repeat, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. Again, that's Fdmg Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. Now, let me say this. For those who are still mailing donations to the Philadelphia address, don't be concerned, because we still have that P.O. box. But over the next 6 months, we want to transition everyone to start donating to the Wilmington P.O. box. But if you already mailed a donation to Philadelphia, don't be concerned. Again, we still own that P.O. box. The other way brothers and sisters can help, if they're interested in being employed at the school, they can email their resumes to fdmgresumes@gmail.com. Again, fdmgresumes, resumes, @gmail.com. If you have an expertise and you would like to volunteer that expertise during the restoration phase, so there's basically 3 stages. There's acquisition, which we have completed with the purchase of the school. So we were successful, victorious. We have acquired. Acquisition is done. Now we are in restoration between now and August the 1st to see how much of the campus we can fully restore to occupational capacity. And then there's operations. So for those who have something they can volunteer during the restoration phase, meaning that they might be a carpenter, plumber, they may be a roofer, they may have expertise in the sprinkler system, which we have to restore. They might be an electrician or an HVAC specialist. Anyone with a building expertise. They might be a painter. They might do concrete. They might do landscaping. Anyone who has a talent or skill that can be used during these 6 months of the restoration phase to renovate, restore, or beautify the campus, they can email me on my personal email address, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com, DRUMAR Johnson at yahoo.com, or they can simply text message me 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. And that's restoration. So I'm really looking for restoration folks right now. The school is a very beautiful campus. However, there's been some graffiti on the walls, and we want to give the school a facelift. It's in good condition, but I want to give it a new look. And so right now I'm soliciting designs from painters and graphic designers who do commercial exterior design to give me a red, black, and green African-centered symbols, paint, whatever the case may be, ancestors, photos, whatever it is. I'm soliciting designs for the exterior of the 4 buildings. So anyone who has an idea, a paint concept, an image concept for the outside of the 4 buildings, please send it on to me. And if you are an exterior building designer who can not only paint, but actually add art design in terms of symbols and colors and the whole nine, I'm encouraging those brothers and sisters to get in contact with me, because whatever we decide to go with for the exterior finish on the buildings, I want it to be something that is eye-catching and awe-inspiring, because presentation is everything. And yes, we're going to hang the red, black, and green flags. We're going to hang the Team Pan-African flag. We're going to hang the Fdmg flag. In fact, I think I want to hang a flag for each of the African and Caribbean countries. I want to have them hanging from the school roof, from the exterior. But again, I'm looking for designs for the outside to give it a facelift as well. So anyone who has any talents or know people have those talents, please send them on to me. But I do want to caution, they must have their paperwork. They must be licensed, okay? And that license must carry over to Delaware in order for them to be able to help us out. Now, from what I understand, Delaware will accept a lot of trades licenses. You just have to register with them. But everything we do, we got to do it by the book, because it is a commercial property.
Wow. This is a tremendous undertaking, extremely ambitious. I am going to be looking forward myself to attending any open house events, especially since I'm physically located very close to that area. And I think that this school would be a very good source of education for the people that are located in Philadelphia. I know that Delaware has a huge need. Shout out to my sister who lives in Delaware, Shelley, and Baltimore, Virginia, North Carolina. Will this be eventually be a boarding type facility, or will it be a day program?
Initially, it will be a day program. There is the possibility that the second school building, the Marcus Garvey building, could be turned into a dormitory. However, I'm not particularly fond of that idea, because I expect us to grow quickly and by leaps and bounds. So what I am looking at now is exploring the immediate neighborhood where the school is in Wilmington, Delaware. And I'm looking for some available lands so that we can begin to conceptualize and begin to raise the funds and build a dormitory that would not be far from the school campus, that would allow black parents, not only around the country but around the world, to send their children to Fdmg and have them live with us in the dormitory without dormitory staff and dorm parents. So there is land available around there. I see vacant land. I don't know if it's available. So, again, some realtors in that area, or realtors who can look up land in Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome your support as well if you want to send me some parcels that they see available, because where we are, you know, as I drive around, I do see large plots of the land. So now it's just a matter of finding out whether they are for sale or not. Now, with regard to the residential concept, even if we do it, we're probably about 3 to 5 years at best away from that. But it is something that I want to do, because that is in keeping with the original intent of the school, which is to be a residential academy. On the other hand, in addition to the residential component, also I would like to have available within 3 to 5 years' time a virtual component to the academy, which would allow children who cannot physically attend the day school or physically reside in the dormitory, they would be able to still access the Fdmg program through a virtual platform at their house, which would allow them to tap into the classroom during school hours. So if anyone has ever taken online classes, some online classes allow you to segment right into the live class. So you can see the professor can see you can see your classmates, and your classmates can see you. So I do want to create a virtual school component, which would allow Africans around the world to be educated by way of Fdmg on satellite or live stream.
This
So
is
we're working on that.
wonderful. Have you thought about implementing girls at some point in time? I know your focus is boys because that is so sorely needed, but I know that you won't leave our girls too far behind in this process some years down the road.
Yes. In fact, it has always been my vision to ultimately include our young princesses. And again, within 3 to 5, I think within 3 to 5 years after we open, I think we will be including the girls by way of our Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy for the young African girls. Also, because we do have 2 school buildings facing each other on the Fdmg campus, there is the possibility that we can add the girls even sooner in the second building, since we do have 2 schools. So there's the possibility of bringing the girls in even sooner than I expected because of the wealth of space we have there in Wilmington. So there's a lot of possibilities. I'm taking them all into account. I'm brainstorming all of them. You know, the beauty of this campus is not only is it in relatively good shape, we do need $1 million in renovations if we're going to renovate all 4 buildings, but it is still in pretty good shape. The problem is it wasn't well secured. So vandalism set in, and that's what caused it to need the renovations that it needed. You know, but then looking at it from the other hand, had the building not been vandalized, we would have not been able to afford it because it is a modern building. You don't have to worry about asbestos. You don't have to worry about lead. Some of the classrooms are fully intact. A lot of it is cosmetics and piping. A lot of it is cosmetics.
We know that's probably the first thing they did, destroy piping.
Yeah, you know, they destroyed, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage for a couple of dollars of copper. I mean, sinks and toilets were ripped off the walls. Makes you want to cry. Beautiful porcelain, brand new, destroyed. So again, cosmetics and piping, electric has to be redone. We got to double check on the gas lines, the water, the HVAC, the sprinkler system has to be done because the sprinkler was stolen. You know, so a lot of that type of stuff. But again, you know, if you were to walk through the building, you would say to yourself, we do need work in here, but once this is done, it's going to be beautiful.
Wow.
It's not one of those old, archaic-looking schools. It is a very much a modern school, state-of-the-art gym. We could put over 1,000 people in the gym. We have 16 classrooms in one building, 8 to 12 in the other building. We still have a second small gym, so we got 2 gyms, 2 schools, still another building. The whole block is us. You know, I've already renamed the street unofficially, Ifatunde Avenue and Dr. Papa Boulevard. And so I'm just looking forward to it. We can hold all of our conferences there. What I was telling the brothers and sisters in Wilmington last night, this is not just about the school, although it is mostly about the school. We have space to host all the conferences the black community needs, all the seminars the black community needs. You know, I'm already calling Wilmington the new capital of black America because by virtue of Fdmg, we will be able to bring our brothers and sisters from across the country and across the world to the school for all the conferences we want to hold. The Black Women's Conference, Black Men's Conference, Ex-Offenders Conference, the Vegan Conference, the Young Revolutionaries Conference, Black Media and Communications Conference, African Spirituality Conference. Everything we want to do, we can do it right there at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy.
This is fantastic news. Here again, I know I'm not that good at the board, but 410-481-1010 is the number to call in if you have a question for Dr. Umar. Now, I'd like to make a hard shift right now on and just get your feelings on, I know you've been busy, but did you get a chance to watch any of those hearings on earlier this week with the gentleman that was on with the Cohen remarks?
Yes, I saw it, some of it. I'm not surprised because, again, all white people are racist. Some just get caught. That's the only difference. It's not whether they're racist or not. It is how unapologetic they are in their racism and whether they get caught or not. That's all there is. And so sometimes like with Congressman Elijah Cummings, and I appreciated his firm position against the racist comments. But at the same time, I think Black America, and especially our bourgeoisie, they often create false dichotomies that suggest only a few white people are of this mindset. And that is largely the consensus of middle and upper class Black America, and even all of Black America, because even our brothers and sisters who are struggling in the hood, they are also of this mindset because they've been brainwashed to think that only a few white people are racist. Nothing could be further from the truth. All white people are racist because racism is about securing permanent advantage and privilege vis-a-vis the disadvantage of Black people. All white people support that. It's not a single white person who does not affirm their white privilege and will fight to the death to protect it. That's a fact. And I just think that when we over-exaggerate these racist comments that are made by quote-unquote famous and popular white people, it sometimes miseducates other Black people into thinking that that white person is an anomaly, that they are an exception, that they are somehow not representative of the dominant thinking that Black people have towards, that white people have towards Blacks, and that's not true. Yes, we should deal with it. Yes, we should confront it. Yes, we should expose it. But we should also be very clear that this is not a single person. This is a collective idea that white people have held towards Black people for 4 centuries now.
We have Marvin on the line, Dr. Umar. Marvin, what is your comment?
Well, I heard the word racism. See, I believe that actual true word of racism, if it was looked at the right way, you would see what racism is all about. I think racism is all about the creator, the people who invented most of the things that's here on the earth today, and the other people who scratched their head and tried to figure it out and put it together and put their money there and made it. We the ones created it. They're the ones that put their money together to make it. So you ask yourself,
Marvin,
who's who?
Marvin, how could we have created it?
Okay, I'll tell you how. When the man needed a traffic light, when he kept running when he just kept running dirt roads, running into people, hitting people, the black guy say, well, listen, I'll make you a traffic light. You remember that?
I mean, I don't remember it exactly.
Otherwise,
like
what
that.
I'm trying to say is a black man invented the traffic light. Black man invented the computer. They invented a lot of things that's here this day that it took other people to bring it on and about. But we the ones that actually created the thing. So that's one of the reasons why racism stands so strong, because they hate the fact that you being treated as nobody, but you really is somebody.
Marvin, thank you. Marvin, thank you. Thank you for your comments. You know, that's interesting. I don't exactly understand his premise, because I think that, you know, people create things for the benefit of themselves. But I can see where a white person listening to the remarks would say, I'm not racist. I'm not benefiting from this. And what is your response to the people that are listening to you now saying, how in the world could I possibly be racist? I have black friends, and you know, you've heard the whole routine.
Racism is about power and is about privilege. It is not about one's attitudes towards another group. A white person could very well not believe in any of the stereotypes that have been engendered towards black people. They can not believe in any type of a racial superiority complex and still be racist. Why? Because racism is not necessarily about the stereotypes and the attitudes. Racism is about protecting power and privilege. It is about control of politics and resources. And this is where black people have such a difficult time of understanding racism, because we have been led to believe that in order for somebody to be a racist, they must hate you, they cannot like you, they must feel superior to black folks. And don't get me wrong, that is true for a lot of white people, but it's not true for all white people. The mature racist doesn't have a problem living with you, sleeping with you, marrying you, having kids with you, partying with you. The mature racist doesn't mind social interaction. The mature racist doesn't need physical segregation. The mature racist really understands the entire premise of racism in the first place, and that is making sure that white people control the resources and that white people are given preferential advantages and preferential treatment over black people. It is about business, and it is about the business of controlling the resources and the opportunities. Racism is about power, privilege, resources, and opportunities. And anyone who doesn't understand that racism is fundamentally about power, privileges, resources, and opportunities doesn't understand racism.
It's amazing. You know, I read through some of the comments on the Cohen hearing, and it was otherwise fairly decent people that were agreeing with the fact that they used the black woman to stand up to say that the current administration was not racist. Like, she was a prop on sale at the auction. It was I don't know if you got a chance to see that part of the hearing, but it was I think it's going to go down in history as one of the lower points of this administration.
Well, the thing is, whenever you have a hopeless group of people, hopeless, there will always be members from that community that can always be used against the best interests of their collective. The reason black people have more sellouts than any other race is because our people are more hopeless than any other race. And by hopeless, I mean we don't believe that we have the ability, without white intervention, to solve our own problems. And so when people feel that a situation is hopeless, they are willing to do anything to save themselves because they no longer believe saving the group is possible. That's how you can get a Condoleezza Rice. That's how you get a Barack Obama. That's how you get Oprah Winfrey. That's how you get all these folks who can sell out black folks at the drop of a dime, because at the end of the day, their unconscious operates on a core belief that these people are never going to succeed anyway. So why should I, sacrifice my good name? Why should I sacrifice my own personal financial opportunities to save a people who at the end of the day don't believe they can be saved anyway? Which is why honor, one of the things we have lost as a community is our sense of political integrity and honor. Honor is, and integrity is almost the same. Honor is a slightly higher vibration, which basically says you do what you do because it is the right thing to do, irrespective of the consequences that follow. Black people no longer have honor when it comes to blackness. When it comes to the black community, there's no honor. You look at our preachers, you look at our politicians, you look at our community leaders, you look at our entertainers, there's no honor, very little honor amongst them.
Devin, you have the line.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. You're on
really
with Dr. Umar. Do you have a question for him?
Yes. And I sort of wanted to I guess, reinforce the comment that you had. First of all, I really like all the things that the doctor is saying is right on point. And also, you too, it's a very interesting show on my drive into the office this morning. But what you just said about the lady who was used as a prop, what is mostly alarming to me is really the fact that she made herself available. That is just totally alarming. Certainly she could have said no, but she's not going to be a part of it. What was in her thought process?
The interesting...
It's just as alarming, but she didn't say anything. She just...
Well, she didn't even have
on the block.
Devin, she didn't even have a mic. The interesting thing that I saw about that was when the congressman stood her up as a prop, the man that was on trial, Cohen, which they really try to overtalk him, he said, I was the one that brought you in. How many other black people are in executive positions at the Trump organizations? I'll answer it, 0. She could say nothing. It was a drop the mic moment. The incident was so shameful and so disrespectful to black women that are out here each and every day trying to do whatever they can do to uphold our race and our morals and our values in society. It was just terrible. So she was, in fact, a prop. I don't think the young woman has figured that out yet, but I think in due time, over the course of history, she will.
Absolutely. Exactly. It was very, very extremely insulting to me as a black man just sitting and watching the depiction portrayed on television. And as a mental health practitioner, it just really alarmed me, really, because a lot of, I guess, thought in regards to her self-image and self-worth certainly has a part to play. When you're assertive and you understand your identity, you don't allow yourself. You say, no, I'm not going to be a part of it because it's a greater representation of black people as a race, and just not about me.
Yeah, Dr. Umar and Devin, I don't think that she really understood when she stood up with no mic. I don't really, or even sworn, I don't really think this young woman really knows at this point. And I believe she has a job in the Ben Carson administration, and she might be getting paid 6 figures. So I think in due time she will. Devin, thank you so much for your call. And Jean, I am coming to you now. Do you have a question for Dr. Umar?
I do. I have a question about separation, but I'd like to make a statement first to Dr. Umar. Malcolm X said, no other group is trying to all other groups are trying to separate themselves from us. We're the only group that's trying to integrate, in with them. Does that make sense? So we're trying to integrate with everybody, but nobody's trying to integrate with us. Everybody basically is separating themselves from us. Could you explain what separation means or the way that we look at separation? Because what I find is, as soon as I say separation, people start talking about a Back to Africa movement. But I think it's deeper than just, going back to Africa. The Nation of Islam isn't trying to go back to Africa. They're separating themselves from, basically the white society and building a positive society within their group. And I don't understand why black people in America, a lot of black people in America don't understand that. Even if I understand it correctly, could you comment on it, please?
Well, first, I want to go back to that previous comment. One thing that black people have to be ever vigilant against, and that is allowing the black bourgeoisie to convince us that success for individual blacks means progress for the group. So even if Donald Trump tomorrow appointed 5 blacks to major cabinet positions, as Bill Clinton did, it did not translate to progress for the group. And the reason the black bourgeoisie is so skilled at brainwashing the masses into thinking that an appointment for one of them equals progress for us, they're so successful at doing this because we have drunk the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
That says, give me a black president, that means black people are doing better. Give me a black mayor, that means black people are doing better. Give me a black cabinet member, that means no, that's tokenism. And tokenism is only success for the black bourgeoisie. For the masses, we should be looking at systematic change for the group. If it is not bringing a systematic change for the group, then it is cosmetic political surgery. And too much of what has happened to and inside black America these past 50 years has been cosmetic political tokenism disguised as progress for the group. With that being said, there's a difference between separation and independence. For me, as a Pan-Africanist and a Garveyite, we don't need to preach separation. Black people are already separate. The only times you interface with white folks is when you go shopping in their stores. The only times you go interface with white folks is when you go working for them at your jobs. We're already separate. We're economically separate. We're politically separate. We're culturally separate. Separatism already exists. We are separate in the ghettos. We are separate in the projects. We are separated by virtue of prison. There's no greater example of black-white separation than mass incarceration and poverty. So we don't need to advocate separation. That's already been achieved thanks to the United States government. What we need to advocate is independence. Black people need their own banks, their own schools, their own supermarkets, their own factories, their own import-export, their own distribution. The problem is not separation. We already have that. The problem is we don't have any independent infrastructure. We are the only group in America without an independent infrastructure. That's what we need. So there's no need to fight for separation. You're already separate. Fight for independent infrastructure. Fight for our own.
Thank you. Tyrone, you have the line. Tyrone?
Yes, good morning.
You're on with Dr. Umar. You have your question?
Yeah, I would like to thank Dr. Umar. That's the most brilliant dissertation I've heard so far on racism in the United States. There are so many black people, intelligent black people, that think just because somebody doesn't call you an N-word, that means that they're not necessarily racist. And also the tokenism that he talked about with Barack Obama being president. There were so many black people that fell for the thing that, this is for a post-racial society because they're a black president, not knowing that Barack Obama was the first, his last election was the first person in U.S. history to be elected without a majority of the white vote. Okay, so it's not, racism is not over by any stretch of the imagination. And true racism is about power. It isn't a denial of power to a group of people based on their race. It has nothing to do with whether they like you, just like you said. It has nothing to do with, and I've had arguments with my friends about whether or not Donald Trump was a racist because they said he never used the N-word, he dated a black girl. I'm like, that has nothing to do with racism. But these are intelligent black men business owners that would argue with you that they voted for Barack Obama because he's better for business and he's not a racist. I mean, not Barack Obama, but Donald Trump. He's not a racist and all this stuff because they've never seen him put on blackface. They've never seen him say the N-word. But that does not mean anything in regards to true racism. And racism is about power and economics. And the other thing, one more thing, as far as when we're separated from a lot of the countries, the non-white countries that actually stand up to the white power structure in the world, they're isolated a lot of times through trade negotiations and trade treaties and all kinds of things like that. They're actually isolated, and they're not allowed to progress. Haiti is a perfect example of that. So, in Mugabe's country, they were also isolated because they didn't want to agree with everything that the white power structure was putting out that dominates the world. And the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So if you don't want to play along, you'll end up like a dollar. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Tyrone, thank you so much for comments. James, you have the line with Dr. Umar. James?
Hey, yeah, how y'all doing? Are you on GoFundMe by any chance?
I don't currently have a GoFundMe. I'm working with my bank now to try to create some sort of online donation platform for brothers and sisters who want to donate electronically. But it is my hope that brothers and sisters don't wait for that. We need the funds now to restore the building. We want to have our quadricentennial celebration this August, so please don't wait for no convenient online mechanism of donation. Please check on money orders payable to the Fdmg Academy, to P.O. Box 9634. I repeat, Fdmg Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. If anyone can text me for that, they can text me on that 215-989-9858. I repeat, 215-989-9858 or drumarjohnson.com.
Ernest, we are coming to you. Ernest?
Yeah, thank you. In 2002, I found out that Congressman Elijah Cummings are sending black youth to apartheid Zionist state in northeast Africa called Israel. All expensive paid trip for black males and females only in his 7th district. Knowing the history of that Zionist state and the massacres that they committed in that part of the country, there you see him as one, where they murdered and massacred whole villages, men, women, and children. How can an individual send our black youth to these Slavic, Hasidim people who is responsible for all of the destruction and wars, modern wars that's happening at this time? I just don't.
Ernest, what's your question for Dr. Umar? I'm not as familiar with the history on anything that our representative... and we might not have time to get into it at this...
I just want Dr. Johnson to know about it. And other African people, that Elijah Cummings, although he's in the Congress, he's still sending African-American children to Zionist apartheid Israel. And I don't think working in the best interest of black people if you're doing something like that in the open. They meet at 5720 Park Heights Avenue, the Jewish Community Center. It's online. It's there.
I'm sort of sure that people from Elijah Cummings' office are listening to this, and you just made your...
I've been talking about it for years.
Well, I'm sure they hear you, and I'm sure they're listening to this, and so I appreciate you putting it out there, but I don't exactly understand what your question specifically is to Dr. Johnson at this time.
Well, the question is, do you think a person is working in the best interest of African people and African children, sending our children into that environment? That's the question.
Do you have an answer for that, Dr.
I'm
Umar?
not familiar. I will look into that. I don't like to speak on allegations that I don't know to be true, especially having been the victim of so many allegations that were not true. So I don't even want to speak on that until I research the issue better and learn more about it before I would respond to it. I don't want to give it any credibility because at present, for me, it is still just an allegation.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it either. Well, we're going to start winding it up. What are some of the other events that we can look forward to attending? Are you going to be in this area anytime soon? What's the schedule look like? What kind of events do you have coming up? I know you're extremely busy with the schools, getting that up.
Here's what I want to do. Normally, when I come to Maryland, it's always Baltimore. In fact, I don't know if I've ever spoken anywhere other than Baltimore. And I love Baltimore. It's one of my favorite places. But I want to come to a different area in Maryland. And it doesn't have to be far from Baltimore, but I just want to meet brothers and sisters in another section of the state and still have my brothers and sisters from Baltimore come to that event. So I'm saying that to say that if anybody knows of a venue in Maryland, and if we still end up in Baltimore, that's fine too. I just wanted to, put out there that I would like to, visit some other black communities in the state of Maryland. But if we end up in Baltimore, that's fine. So if anyone knows of a venue in Baltimore or beyond in Maryland that can seat about 300-400 people, please get in contact with me. I'm willing to pay to rent it, but it needs to seat 300 or 400 people for my return lecture to the state of Maryland, wherever that may be. And I would like to make it for this month, March. We could do it at the end of March, or we could do it in early April. Anybody has a black church, community center, event center, a theater, someplace that's not too small but not too large. Again, 300 to 500 is good. please get in contact with Dr. Umar Johnson, 215-989-9858, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com. I want to thank all my donors from Maryland, all of my donors. A lot of donations over these past 4.5 years came from the state of Maryland. I can't say that enough. That DNA, the DNA of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, thoroughly has the fingerprints of Black Maryland upon it, and I want to thank Maryland for helping me.
Wow, that is fantastic, and I can tell you, I'm pretty sure you're going to be getting emails and requests, because I can think off some venues right off the top of my head right now, but I don't want to put them out on the airways, so I'll call you later.
Okay, then call me later, because you might know of a spot that I can use.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to sabotage it before I before I check with some the powers that be to find out if it's possible. In your closing remarks, what do you are the state of our nation, and let's end on some positivity. I mean, the fantastic thing is that you have the school, and you have a way for our young people now to form an identity early about who they are, and to teach them before they get disenfranchised with our educational system. Just speak on.
One of the important things that we're going to be starting back up is the National Independent Black Parent Association. Last night in Delaware, I made the announcement that there will be a training, probably in March, for the National Independent Black Parent Association, and it will probably be in Delaware. And I want Black Maryland to come out, Virginia, the DMV needs to come out, because we need to start chapters of the NIBPA to help our parents fight against racism in schools, to organize Black parents to make change in the areas of special education, school discipline, school policy, school finance, parent advocacy, homeschooling, social support, because every child won't be able to attend Fdmg, at least not until we have enough Fdmgs around the world for every Black child to attend. That's the long-term goal. We're certainly some years away from that. In the meantime, we have to still fight for our parents whose children are still in public, private, parochial, and charter schools. So I'm hoping that when I put the call out for the NIBPA conference, and I should have that information very soon, I'm hoping that brothers and sisters come from all across the country, because we have to organize and fight back against academic apartheid in America.
Wonderful. I think that you're going to get a huge response. I know initially that's how I got involved with you in trying to raise my own sons, and getting involved with that the teachers, the parent teachers thing. I think initially we met at Howard Street, and that work is so important. Anybody who has children, they know that it is important. I always thought that it was fascinating that even though Jewish children might attend a regular school, they would attend a Saturday school, which taught them about their heritage, their traditions, where they came from, and so forth. And I think that that is so important, and I hope that you'll be able to incorporate some of that into the new academy.
Definitely.
For now.
See, when we're done with the school in the daytime, when the kids go home, the community just begins. Like, we're going to have a community at FDMG. We're going to have classes for everybody who needs everything. Lamaze classes for the pregnant women, meditation classes, support groups for the brothers and sisters who've been abused sexually, physically, verbally, ex-offenders workshops, employment board to help brothers and sisters get jobs who need them. That school will be the international headquarters of Black consciousness. It will be the central organizing location for Black power in the United States.
That is a wonderful thing to happen for Delaware, and I know that you'll be incorporating some of the principles that our late great Dr. Leon Sullivan started, and that was with adult armchair education, and that was a wonderful movement. I was small, but I remember that that was a center in Philadelphia that people went to, where if they didn't know how to read and write as well as on a proficient level, they were able to come back there and to learn. So this sounds like the makings of something fantastic. Dr. Umar, we appreciate your work. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to having more of these discussions. We've only tipped the iceberg. And once again, could you give out your information on where people can write and send their donations?
Without question, donations 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. Again, that's Fdmg Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. Resumes, fdmgresumes@gmail.com. And do let me say this, Sister Ann. Because of Delaware's unique location, children from southern Pennsylvania will be able to attend. Children from southern New Jersey will be able to attend. And children from eastern Maryland will be able to attend. Because as you know, Delaware borders Maryland. And there's a lot of Maryland towns that are less than an hour's drive to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy campus. So Maryland will also be able to take advantage of the Fdmg Academy.
Dr. Umar, thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you, Queen. Have a good one.
Yes, thank you. So for all our listeners with the Power